now we deviate back to football. Pete's saying stay on target yet again after we went off target there for about 5 minutes. But yes, I used to pee in the trash can. But I can say this, under any type of sodium pentothal, lie detector, I never peed in the trash can at NBC or any other workplace setting.
Me neither.
Chris,
yes.
But I've never poured water in either,
okay,
so I got that going for
me.
Okay, yesterday, the Ravens had a pre-free agency, I guess you call it, press conference. I don't know. Eric DaCosta spoke on a variety of topics, and now that Dak Prescott has his new contract, 4 years, $160 million, if you haven't been paying attention the last couple of days, Lamar Jackson is one of the guys who's on deck for a new deal. Here's Eric DaCosta talking about the hope in Baltimore that they can get Lamar Jackson signed to a second contract.
Lamar and I have had a couple talks. We did spend some time together a few weeks ago, and that went really well. We haven't really gotten into the actual contract proposals, negotiations, things like that. It was more of a general conversation about a lot of different things, the team, Lamar, just how we were going to go about a negotiation like this. There's definitely some different moving parts that make this different than a lot of other negotiations we've done. So I think from our perspective, it hasn't changed from what I said postseason, which is Lamar's a really important part of the team. He's a leader. He's an outstanding player. He's a foundational type of guy for this organization. I really think he loves the organization. I think he's very appreciative of the organization and our stance and different things. And we're confident and committed to trying to get a long-term deal done, and hopefully we can get that done at some point, in the near future. It may take a little time, but we're willing to try.
And yeah, the Ravens understand that Lamar Jackson is the guy. The cautionary tale of Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. Look, you know your quarterback better than anyone. And shame on the Eagles and the Rams in hindsight for getting it wrong, especially the Rams. The Eagles, I think that
there's a little
that
more
just falls into
justification.
the stuff happens category.
Right.
The Rams, it was, why the hell are you doing
the
this?
whole league
you're
was
still
saying
gonna
that.
do it?
Yes,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, why? And
right.
I almost feel like they did it out of spite.
I feel like that too
to tell those of us who were saying don't do it, up yours,
right.
We're doing it.
Right.
But the Ravens know they have a winner with Lamar Jackson. Here's the reality. Because it's not like you walk right through the door now if you're Lamar Jackson and say, give me Dak Prescott's contract. Dak Prescott's contract was a product of his leverage, and Lamar Jackson is 4 years away from having the same leverage that Dak Prescott enjoyed. He'd have to finish the next 2 years of his rookie contract, 1 year of the franchise tender, and then be embarking on the second potential franchise tag, staring down the possibility of being tagged before he'd have that kind of leverage. Right now, this is the opportunity for the Ravens to do what the Cowboys failed to do, Chris.
Right.
The Cowboys failed to swoop in when the window opened and make him an offer he couldn't refuse. You got to make him an offer he can't refuse now, because that number is only going to go up and up and up and up as time passes.
Yeah, 100%. And, first off, Lamar Jackson, as we all know, I don't care. Everything is going in the right direction as a pocket passer. He is a special, special player. And without a doubt, he is one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the game. Yeah, it might not be done the way that other quarterbacks can do it, but we're seeing development from him. Hey, the playoff game, it's 10-3. They drive down. He makes a number of great throws and gets them down there. Yes, I know he threw an interception, but I continue to see progress in the drop-back pass game, and we talked about some of the other issues that don't lend it to being great for Lamar Jackson all the time anyways. The offense is not all really that creative in the pass game. There is no legitimate threat weapon at wide receiver to dictate certain matchups and get defenses to do certain things that way too. So you got to take that into account. And then, Mike, you talk about the leverage thing. I mean, you're right. He doesn't have that leverage that Dak Prescott does, but he does have a little leverage in one similarity. And where we talked about Dak Prescott and that team right now and the way it's built at this moment, where the defense isn't good, the run game's not special anymore, and their receivers are special, and they need a special quarterback to, make all that work and really flourish and all that. Well, Lamar has that same thing there in Baltimore. he has got them a little bit by, hey, they've gone all in on Lamar and building an offense that is unique to only him, really. It's really him, and that's it, that can do this type of stuff. So that's where he does have a little leverage to go, oh, okay, you don't want me? All right, well, good luck trying to run that offense or inventing a new offense or somebody else next year. Let's see how that goes. So he does have that aspect, and I would think that Baltimore and DaCosta, who's very smart, would realize that. And you're right. Get on it now, right? Get on it now, especially with, I would think maybe you could get a guy like Lamar who knows he plays a dangerous style of football to where he might look at it and go, whoa, you're going to give me, $85 million guaranteed or something like that? Sure, I'll take it right now. I think it's interesting, and I hope Baltimore can get it done.
And here's where it becomes critical for Lamar Jackson to hire an agent. Don't get caught up in 2%, 3%, whatever percent. And I think Lamar Jackson's got the bargaining power at this point, because being attached to Lamar Jackson would be good for an agent's other recruiting efforts. You can negotiate it to 1% of the total value. Don't get caught up in that, because a lot of times 98, 97, 99% of what an agent can get for you is a hell of a lot more than 100% of what you get on your own. The belief is it's going to be Lamar's mother and her lawyer who are involved in this process. But one of the important reasons to have somebody who's completely outside the family bubble, completely independent, in a position to say the things that need to be said. Part of what you have to say to a guy isn't just, ask for more or ask for less, or here's what we want to get, or here's what you should try to get. Part of it is to get the guy to say there's value in waiting, and to understand the risk of waiting, but to see the value in waiting. Dak Prescott, I'm sure, heard many times, Chris, over the past couple of years from family members, friends, teammates who either were genuinely concerned about him or maybe put up to it by somebody within the organization. We know how the sausage gets made.
Yeah.
Even if they weren't doing it consciously. You hear a coach talking about it. You hear somebody else talking about it. Hey, Dak, are you sure? Dak, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to say no to. Think about that. How much is enough? How much do you really need?
Yeah,
Think
no,
about how
I
it's
know.
going to change
I was
your
one
life.
of those
You
saying that. Right.
And so you need somebody in your corner who is saying, stay on target, as Pete has told us multiple times today. Don't get caught up in that. Don't worry about what they say. Don't worry about them. They're not the ones who have to live with this decision. And so it's not just, urging the guy to push for more. It's also urging the guy to wait for more.
Sure.
And be patient. And you need someone who's going to give you good, sound advice and also lay it all out for you. You get to a certain point, and I've had agents explain this to me. At some point, there's an offer that is on the table that you have to say yes to, because what would you tell your own son? I can't say no to this. And that's where an experienced agent knows when you're in that sweet spot. That's why, and look, I understand that it really hasn't gotten off the ground, because I think most guys understand they're not equipped to make these decisions because they're making them once. Agents make them over and over and over and over and over again.
Right.
You need a good agent who can understand when that sweet spot arrives and when it's time to say, I'll accept. And that for Dak Prescott, it finally arrived after 2+ years. For Lamar Jackson, it could arrive quickly, but you better be sure you're taking the right offer. You don't want to regret it 2 or 3 years from now.
No, listen, I'm always in favor of an agent. Yeah, it can be a pain in the butt. And yeah, you got to give them 3%, or maybe you can negotiate and get something lower than 3%. But, the upside, as you've mentioned many, many times, to me is far greater than the downside in doing that. Here's the next thing I ask you. Do you think Lamar's realistic enough to go, listen, it's one thing for Dak Prescott. Yes, he runs and does a little of that, but, primarily a pocket quarterback who's a really big guy. And with the quarterback rules the way they are and unable to hit them and be too physical in the pocket, okay, it's less of a risky, proposition for a guy like him than compared to Lamar Jackson. Don't you at least view it that way?
I'd say yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as you said, the Ravens have retooled their offense for Lamar Jackson. They are in a corner here. It's not like you can go find somebody else and say, hey, go run our offense the way it's been constructed over the past 3 years. So, look, the Dak Prescott contract.
Yeah.
And this occurred to me yesterday. The quarterback market was irrelevant to Dak Prescott's leverage. His leverage was driven by the franchise tag and the future. $37.68 million this year is what he would have made, and next year probably would have been an unrestricted free agent.
Yep.
So they had to give him something that made him say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. But now that he's getting $40 million a year from signing, now that he's getting a $66 million signing bonus, now that he's getting $95 million fully guaranteed at signing with $75 million fully paid out this year, other quarterbacks are going to say, that's my barometer.
Right.
That's my benchmark.
Right.
That's my F. That's what I'm trying to get to. And so by waiting until Dak's deal got done, it does get more expensive for the Ravens.
Definitely.
And you know what? Maybe the Ravens have been frustrated, whether this was intentional or not. They don't really know who to talk to. They don't know who to negotiate with. They'd like to get this done, and maybe they would have liked to have gotten it done before Dak.
Well, yeah.
Maybe they just thought the Cowboys weren't going to get it done with Dak. But now that it's done, that complicates things for the Ravens.
Definitely. And, you're right about not being – listen, that's what people were frustrated about that with Lamar Jackson coming out in the draft. Not being
couldn't get in touch with him.
Yeah, couldn't get in touch with him. They couldn't, schedule interviews, whatever it may be, to try to get to know the guy better. So I think that scared people, certainly. Now the Ravens know him. We know that and all that. The other thing I always kind of
Hey, Chris, let me say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the reasons he went 32nd, we've talked about this before, but let me emphasize it right here.
Right.
One of the reasons he went 32nd, he didn't have an agent fighting back against whatever narratives the agents who represent the other quarterbacks were throwing out there to pump their guys up and knock him down. You need somebody who is both defending you against that crap and, it doesn't hurt to be throwing some of it back at some of these other guys.
Sure.
And maybe you do end up higher than 32nd, and maybe you're not the fifth quarterback taken in 2018.
No, I think there's that's a real thing. I mean, there's no doubt. There was a faction of people in the NFL who were anti-Lamar Jackson, as I've told you, and people that pushed back against me at the owners' meeting that year when I made him the number one quarterback originally. It was constant. It bothered me, and of course I know Bill Polian made those comments, but there was, a number of people out throughout the NFL where, again, it just was almost disrespectful to him that way. And you're right. There was nobody there to fight against the narrative other than a few guys like me on TV and on the internet that were going, wait, what are you looking at? This guy is special. He's the real deal. Now, the other thing I always get, Mike, too, is this when I talk about Lamar contract. Well, he's going to slow down. He's not going to be able to run like this forever. I know that. He won't be able to run like this forever. But it's not going to fall off a cliff here out of nowhere in the next 3 to 4 years. It's not. He'll slow down, but he's still going to be one of the fastest guys on the field as he slows down. He will. He does a pretty damn good job, too, when you break him down about not taking a huge number of big hits. He's very slippery that way. But I don't look at it, too, to where, Baltimore in 3 years is going to have to change their offense because he won't be able to have the threat of the run anymore. No, maybe it won't be, as big of a threat or as often, but that's still going to be there. He's going to be 4 years down the line, and I promise you, if we made him run a 40, he'll still be able to run a high 4.4, and that's damn dangerous at quarterback and special. And, of course, he's growing as a passer, too. And the less and less he can run, that'll force him to become a better passer. It's a point my dad always makes. Those legs are get-out-of-free jail cards, right? That's what happens to these athletic quarterbacks at times because they just go get out of jail free cards. Does that make sense?
Get out of free jail.
Get out of free jail, whatever.
Get out of jail free.
You know what I mean.
Yeah,
free jail. But my father makes that point a lot to go.
In free jail, they pee off the porch.
Yeah, that's right. Just do whatever you want. But to the fact of, hey, with a guy that athletic, he's always been able to get away with going, hey, one's not open. Okay, I'm just going to tuck the ball and run, and I can make something happen. Why risk me sitting in the pocket and going through the read? But we're seeing him grow in that way, and he'll continue to grow as he starts to realize, wait, my legs can't get me out of every jam in the history of football here. So I'm going to have to start to push the envelope about staying in the pocket. And I see all those things. It is all trending in the right direction for Lamar. I have no doubt that he can do that and will continue to do that as we go forward. So I hope they get it done. I love watching him. He fits Baltimore. He fits their style of football, their attitude. Everything about him screams Baltimore Raven, John Harbaugh, toughness. We're going to kick your butt. And from that aspect, like a Dak Prescott, I think he represents the organization in a really great way, and I hope they can get it done.
One more point that I think is highly relevant here. Let's go back to the 2012 season. The Ravens were entering the final year of the Joe Flacco rookie contract. He was a first-round pick of that team in 2008, and they didn't give him an offer he liked. So he bet on himself. He played it out, and he got them on the brink of a very difficult decision, non-exclusive franchise tag, and there were multiple teams thinking about swooping in and trying to take him. Joke would have been on them, frankly, in hindsight. Or exclusive franchise tag, and they decided we're not going to do either of that. We're going to make this guy the highest paid quarterback in football. And the way that their salary cap was, they had to tear it up 3 years later and make him the highest paid quarterback again.
Yep.
They learned the hard way that holding back
right.
can blow up in your face. I wonder whether or not that's going to
true.
influence their willingness and their interest in getting this done now, so they don't have to ultimately make him the highest paid quarterback in football if they wait for a couple of years.
I would think so. It's a really smart organization. I mean, we've seen they're pretty damn good in all facets of what they've done. I mean, whether it was Ozzie Newsome and now DaCosta and, hey, ownership, everything about them, I look at the Baltimore Ravens and go, yeah, they've made some mistakes, but it's never like anything glaring. Man, they've been one of the most
other than Earl Thomas.
Well, yeah, Earl Thomas, that was a bad contract, certainly. I mean, I think they realize that. That's why they tried to get out of Dodge
they
last
admit
year.
It. They know.
Yeah,
they
know, right?
They know. Yeah.
But, like, other than the Patriots, really, I challenge any, like, have the Ravens been the second most relevant team over the first 21 years of this, century? I would say probably yes. I think so when you talk about it from all 21 years.
And they're relevant every year. They contend every year.
Right.
They're good every year. And that's one of the things you can take to the bank. As long as that structure's in place with DaCosta as the GM and Harbaugh as the head coach, they're going to continue to be relevant. They're going to continue to contend. And, you're going to be on the porch. You're going to be knocking on the door. And every so often you got a good chance of kicking it in.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.